All right. Thanks again for being here. It's really awesome. I'm really excited for this being our first interview and all, and it was pretty, it's really exciting for me. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So yeah, I've known you for about it's been about a year and a half at
Yeah.
least, or
Yes. Yeah.
around there. And I know that ever since we met, like it just kind of really clicked.
hmm
And I do know that I guess you can say some of the same things as yourself, though you're way more evolved than me. I kind of veered away from it, just with life and everything else. So I just wanted to have everybody else, I guess, get to know you and stuff. So we're in Alberta in Cochrane. Um, and I just, yeah, I want to let people know who you are, where you've been, how things have transpired for you and where you're at this moment in time. And maybe, just help others understand, your struggles and that they're not alone out there and stuff like that too. So, how about just, you know, expressing who you are and telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, hello, everyone. My name is Natalee. I'm an intuitive channel and tarot reader. That is what I do full time for my business and for myself. How I met Josee was through uh, a company in Cochrane that we were working for, and I was doing some readings out of the room there, and yeah, we started building like a really lovely relationship. I think there's a lot of similarities, not only our sun sign,
Yeah.
but also just like some of the life experiences that we've had. Yeah, it's been really beautiful to kind of build a relationship with people for like over a long period of time. I know that for me and from my experience, like usually people last in my lifetime for a reason, a season, and I have very few people that have lasted for a lifetime. For me, that's kind of what has transpired. Where I'm at today right now is I fully self-sustain myself with my business or with my company. It's called Win Marla Tarot. The name was gifted to me by a Burmese monk when I was 16 in Brazil. Um, it means beautiful flower and radiant light, and that's like how I would be described by most people. And it was my first tattoo that I got when I was 16 as
Oh,
well. So
sweet. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I have like a lotus flower on my back with like my name in Burmese, like in Burmese writing. It's pretty cool. It's like my first tattoo that I ever got, and I went with my dad.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, I did see
Yeah.
the tattoo, but I didn't know about the whole this like the story behind it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Mm.
so that's how my name was involved, and how it kind of grew and developed. And that's what I have a few different like channels of like how people can see me or view me. So a lot of the work that I do is online. I also have a website as well, which is called winmarlatarot.ca. That's usually how people book in through to get a reading. The reason why people would come to get a reading or why they would come to see me is usually for clarity and validation of where they're at with inside their current life theme. So a lot of the channeling that I do is very much linked to love, health, finance, where people are stuck or where blocks or barriers are. Recently, there's been a lot more like mediumship stuff. So, like people who have crossed over that we're wanting to have like conversations with, especially like ones who are really loved. So, like brothers, sons, grandparents, like that's who I've been reading for a lot right now. It would seem like there's a lot of people that are crossing over right now. So if there are like, people from my experience have a lot of grief, and grief is like the deepest emotion that a human can feel. And so being able to support them through that, and starting to learn how to live a new normal can be like really challenging. So I'm just here to support people as they go through their grieving journey, through their trauma journey, through whatever kind of journey it is that they're in right now in this moment. And then I just provide them tools and skills and even just channeled messages to really help support them as they continue moving forward in their life theme. Um,
So how is it exactly that you just got into this? Like how did it
You
even
know,
begin for you type thing? And
how did it start?
yeah, I know
I
it's a
think
fully loaded question, but I mean,
yeah, yeah, it is. But I
yeah.
started like I've been spiritual my whole life. My mom and my stepdad and even my dad as well are like very involved in spirituality. And so when I was younger, I used to like see things from the other side, like angels and fairies and nymphs and like all of that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
as we kind of grow up, we go through like the schooling system. It doesn't really teach us how to get in touch with spirituality. You know what I mean? It's like let's learn social studies.
Yeah.
Let's learn math.
Yeah. Correct. Yes.
So I started, I mean, I got my first tarot deck when I was about 12 years old, and it was just like a playing card kind of deck.
Yeah.
Um, Anyways, I kind of have been on a bit of a journey for the last little while. And about 7 years ago, I came into recovery. So I have dual addiction. So I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. And when I came into sobriety, one of the things that transpired for me, my girlfriend, she gifted me a tarot deck. And so I just started playing around with it. And I was pulling a card for myself every day and I was writing down the meaning of what it meant.
Okay.
And I just kept doing it for myself, kept doing it for myself, kept doing it for myself. I was living in Vancouver at the time, and one of my girlfriends, she's like, "Hey, do you want to do a reading for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, why not?" We were living together, and we just started kind of playing around with tarot a little bit. So I read for her, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, that was so amazing!" So she invited her mom to come see me in our home. I read for her
Nice.
mom, and her mom was like, "Oh my goodness, that's so amazing!" So she brought her aunt. And then I did a read for my mom and my stepdad and my dad.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of started growing from there. Like that's kind of how I got into it. It kind of wasn't something that I had really chosen. It was just something that I kind of got into. And the
Yeah.
more that I developed and grew that skill, the more it was available for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And that's kind of how it's grown. It's kind of been something like a mushrooming effect, right? It's like one person tells five people, and then
Yeah.
those five people have another five people, right? And it's just kind of grown since then.
Mhm.
And I opened my business of October. I think it was the 17th of 2021. So this year will be October. This year will be 3 years that I've been in this
Oh, cool.
business.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
everything's going pretty well, so it's that's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know
This
that
year.
even through the transition and stuff like that, from what we spoke about and whatnot, I know it wasn't easy, in a sense of, I don't know, was your family like really accepting of it and all that too? Or like, how was it on that part of thing with friends?
My family was super good about it. I think just because they have so much knowledge about spirituality, so they really encouraged me to like my first year, 95% of my client base was from my mom,
Oh, wow.
which was
Okay.
pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
to be able to feel like so supported in that. And like when I started out, like I would do a reading like maybe once a week or like once every couple of weeks. Like it wasn't something that was like readily available. Like I had to work on building my clientele, right? Like it wasn't just something that had handed like fell in my lap. Like it took a lot of action for me to like go out and create business for myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, my family was super supportive. They were amazing throughout. They've been amazing throughout this whole entire thing, especially with supporting me with inside the business that I've grown.
And
Mm.
I know that you expanded it a little bit more into the twin flame.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm horrible at explaining this. So I'm gonna let you explain this part. Um, yeah, just to kind of explain what it is exactly, twin flames. And also for yourself, like how is it that you became like really professional, I guess you can say, like really in that niche of things? How did you get into that?
Yeah, it's a pretty niche market.
It is. It's a cool niche. I mean,
Yeah, it
it's
is.
just I know a lot of people do understand it or they know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But for myself, you always hear about like the twin flames or your soulmate and things like that too, right? So it's just kind of understanding what's the difference. Yeah, anything about it basically that can help us understand.
Sure. So, a huge component of my reads are very much love based.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the reason why people come to see me. So from my experience, and this is just like my belief system, but there are only three types of relationships that exist.
Mhm.
One is called a karmic, one is called a soulmate, and one is called a twin flame. A karmic connection, their purpose is to teach us lessons. So this can be family members, romantic relationships, coworkers, friendships. Like they're literally here to teach us a lesson or to have a learning or a lessoning.
Yeah.
How it was shown to me in spirit. So when I was doing a meditation about these different types of relationships, and I'll go through each of them just with a bit of a little blurb. But if this is one person and this is one person, karmic ties have no string in between the two of them. So they're just here for growth and evolution of their own individualized journey. That's it. They don't have a lot of relationship. They won't stay together for a very long period of time. Like they're literally just here for a lesson. Everyone has been a karmic for
Yeah.
someone,
Mm.
and everyone has been a soulmate for someone. That's just kind of how it's worked. So,
Yeah.
or a law of the universe. There are laws of the universe that do apply, especially to relationship dynamic. I'm not very versed with them. But yeah, so karmics, they're here to teach us a lesson. Soulmates, if this is one person and this is one person, they have a silver string in between the two of them. Again, family, coworkers, romantic relationships. These are people that you grow together with. So
Okay.
you have a purpose together. These are the people that will be here more so for a lifetime. You know, when you hear people who are like, oh, I've been friends with these people since I was 16, or I've been friends, you'll see like the women in the homes where they've been friends since they were 12 years old and they
Yeah.
go to the same folks home and they're, you know, they've just
Yeah.
been around or been together for very long periods of time, and they're here for growth and evolution with each other. So they're here as like to grow together. And then there's a relationship called a twin flame. Twin flames, if this is one person and this is one person, they have a red string in between the two of them.
Okay.
Twin flames are a very, 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 very small collective.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like an extremely small collective. Like I think maybe like 5% or 1%. I can't remember the exact numerology or statistic for
Oh,
it.
okay.
But it's like a very, very, very rare connection. There are three different types of twin flames. So there's a monad, a split soul, and a collective. The monad is if you have a masculine and feminine in one body and a masculine and feminine in another body. So this is a male, this is a female, but they have balanced with inside their masculine and feminine energies. These will be your retreat hosts, your retreat facilitators, plant medicine journey therapists, yoga teacher training therapists, like those kinds of things. This could even be legitimate therapists. Then you have something called a split soul. Split soul is a masculines in one body. Before I go into that, sorry, the monad, their purpose is for mission work. So it's not necessarily for love. It's very
Oh.
much for mission and how they can do mission work together. So providing a service to a greater collective.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Then you have something called a split soul. So divine masculine is in one body, divine feminine is in another body. They're
Mhm.
here for unconditional love. So this is where you'll see the story of the runner, the chaser, the narcissist, empath, whatever you want to classify or label it as. But you'll see a lot of people who have a separation, come back in, have another separation, come back in, those kinds of things.
All right.
Their purpose is here for unconditional love. So they are here to come into union together.
Okay.
This will be your tarot readers, podcast holders, estheticians, salon stylists, those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Then you have something that's called the hive. So if you've ever heard of like wave 1, 2, 3, those kinds of things,
Yeah.
anyways, certain types of waves, the collective is all about people who have a knowledge of what twin flames are. So they haven't necessarily come into a union. They may know of someone who's a twin or see angel numbers or signs or synchronicities, but they don't actually have a twin flame, if that makes sense. They just
Okay.
have a knowledge or an awareness around it, if that makes sense. So
Yep.
this is the biggest collective. So a lot of people think that they're a twin flame, but they're actually not in a twin flame relationship at all. All twins work in 3, 6, and 9 month cycles, or 3, 6, and 9, the numerology. So and that's across the board for all of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's about twin flames.
So when you
You
say about the 3, 6, and 9, um, can you kind of elaborate a little bit on that? Like, is it why 3, 6, 9? Like, what is it with the numerology and stuff like that? Like, are you talking about like their birth dates, or like how is it exactly, or it could be anything.
No,
What?
so 369 is their story. So they always come in for a very short period of time or a very short union together. So this will be
Oh,
3 months, 6 months, 9 months, three
okay.
years, 6 years, 9 years. Like they all work in a 3, 6, or 9 timeline.
Okay.
I don't know why it's based off of that, but Nikola Tesla's theory of the 369 has something to do with it as well. But you'll
Yeah.
notice that all twins work in those 369 cycles. So
Hmm.
sometimes, like when I was going through my separation, a lot of what I was seeing was numerologies of 369, 369. And it
Interesting.
would be what would happen was my twin would come back, let's say in a 3 week period, check in, be like, hey, how's it going? I'd come back in and be like, yeah, good. We'd try hanging out for whatever. And then we'd be back in a separation for another 3 months. Do you know what I mean? So there's like some sort of cycling that happens
Yeah.
when it's linked to the 369. There's just a numerology about it.
Hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
I never even thought about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you said you are with your twin flame, right?
Yeah, so I am in a union with my twin flame. So
Yeah.
we are split soul. So he's the divine masculine in one body, and I'm the divine feminine in one body. I'm a tarot reader.
Yeah.
We've been in a cycling or in, so I'll just kind of describe. I met my twin in 2021
Yeah.
in July. We were together for 6 months.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since then, I ended up moving out. And usually what happens, especially with twins, is they go 0 to 100. Once you go 0 to 100, you have no space to go. So
Okay.
because you have no space to go, you have to go into a separation. And the
Okay.
separation phase can usually be like really it's here to awaken your kundalini. So the kundalini is like the snake that lives at the base of your spine.
Yeah.
And in order to awaken that, usually most people that are in these dynamics are usually twin flame
Okay.
like kundalini stuff. It usually gets awakened or activated when you meet your twin or when you go in through your first separation. So
Okay.
mine got activated, and usually what happens, a lot of people who go through the twin flame journey, they usually go through some sort of like psychosis, concussion, some sort of like an accident usually too is something that happens. Like it's pretty severe, the level of separation that you go through. So I went through a massive depression. I had a lot of like suicidal ideation. I ended up trying to kill myself a couple of times. Like it was pretty severe, my separation phase.
Okay.
I didn't really have a whole lot of support as I was going through that. I really had to learn how to. The whole purpose of being a twin is to become into union with source. It's not actually about your journey with the other person. Does that
Mm.
make sense? So
Yes.
before I met my twin, I was working for a construction company doing admin. I did that for like 3 years.
Okay. All right.
And
Yeah.
because I met him, so they breed spiritual people,
Mm.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I would not have been a reader if I didn't meet my twin because he activated my Kundalini, which allowed me to step into what my purpose is.
Wow. Does
Does
he
that
know
make
that?
sense? No, probably not.
Okay.
Because my twin, well, actually, he does. I have told him before. I told him, like, I gave him a lot of gratitude, especially when I was going through my separation and starting my business and doing that, because I really wanted to get into this space where you have to get to a point, especially in the journey, where you stop blaming them for their behaviors and how they treated you or whatever it is, and actually, like, start giving some space of forgiveness. Once
Yeah.
you get to that space of forgiveness, then you start to have some gratitude. Once you have gratitude for the journey, then it just creates so much space for you to do whatever it is that you want, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, you're totally right on that one. Yeah.
So once I got into that space of gratitude, I really like thanked him for my journey, and I got into the space of detachment. I was just like, okay, I'm on my journey, like I'm good if a soulmate comes in, because usually after you meet your twin, a soulmate will come in for you, or karmic if there's more learnings or lessons that have to happen.
Yep.
I chose to do a lot of it on my own, just because I really wanted to focus on my business, and I wanted to focus on my health. I wanted to focus on like all of these things within inside myself, because there was a lot of things that I felt was broken inside of me. And I
Okay.
had to come to this place and learn that nothing was ever broken,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
Mhm.
When I got to that space, it gave me permission to have grace with myself.
Mm,
And I think that that's probably like the biggest gift that I've ever gotten,
that's well
you
put. Yeah.
know?
No, for sure. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so I mean, we were in a separation. So we dated for 6 months. We were in a separation for 3 years. And then in April of this year, we got back together and it's been 6 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is pretty amazing. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
I just moved in last month. So
just last month. Okay. And
Mhm.
everything's going good.
Yeah, everything's going well.
No, that's amazing. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. That's
Yeah.
really, yeah, it's really amazing on that part.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so I know that, like I said, we're talking about the twin flames and stuff like that. I know that you also work with a lot of people who, like you were saying before, that are a lot of, like, you're grieving and stuff like that too, right?
Mhm.
Are there any type of, I don't know if you want to say like tips or um, any information that you can give them in order to be able to, go through those grieving moments and stuff like that? Like you said you didn't have any support and stuff like that too,
Mhm.
right? During the time that you were separated. So, anything to kind of help others, I don't know, did you go somewheres? Did you meet people? Did you,
Mhm.
how did you get out of it type thing? And what advice can you give for others?
Well, I didn't know that I was on the twin flame journey. Like I had no idea. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I had
Yeah.
no idea that this was something that was happening.
Okay.
I started going to see a reader who was able to identify the nature of my connection. So that was the first thing that I did.
All
Once
right.
I knew what it was, then I started doing a bunch of research on like what this was because I just had such a hard time being able to identify or understand like where I was at and why I was feeling the way that I was feeling.
Yeah.
So I started getting invested in like twin flame groups, things on Facebook. I started reaching out to a bunch of different readers. I was getting readings like once a month, if not more. Like I was just going to town.
Yeah.
And two, like for a reader, I think it's so important to go and see readers. Does that make
It's
sense?
exactly what I was going to say. I said, it's really nice giving readings for everybody, but it's so nice to receive, at the same time too,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets you out of your headspace at times. You
Yeah.
get too much into that the mindset and I guess out of the heart and out of your authenticity, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
Totally.
honestly. So yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree. Yeah, just to go see someone else and
Yeah. So
as
I
I
went to
did
go
with
and
you,
see.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And I
okay, I
needed
need to ready
that.
now.
Yeah, I needed that, right? Because I felt like I was going crazy. Like I
Yeah.
literally felt like I was going insane.
Yes.
So I went and I saw some readers. I actually like went back to talk therapy. That helped quite a bit. So I went to go see like a psychologist,
Okay, cool.
which was amazing. I did some, and then I just started kind of tapping into my work because once I knew that the journey that I was on was a spiritual journey, I
Mhm.
was like, I need a spiritual solution for my spiritual problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have a tendency of always going everywhere else but there, I
Hmm.
think. Yeah, you're
Yeah. And
absolutely
it
right.
was scary, right?
Yeah.
It was really scary for me to see my shadow side or to do like I did a set of steps. So I did like the AA recovery program. So I did a set of AA steps. I did a set of codependency steps. I did a set of like sex addicts and love anonymous
Yeah.
steps. Um I did and then like once I got my recovery a little bit like okay or like a solid foundation with that, that
Yeah.
gave me space and permission to start trying all these different types of modalities. So I
Okay.
started going to sound baths, I started doing tantra work, I started going to retreats, I started doing pendulum work. I just started trying all of these different types of modalities because I was like, I can't go to someone that doesn't understand
Yeah.
what it is that I'm going through. I have to go and seek some spiritual solutions and then find out what the not the problem is, but where I felt like I needed some work. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yep.
So when I found what that was, whether it was vibration frequency, eating differently, going to the gym more, like just really focusing on taking care of my physical body or my physical vessel,
Yeah.
that also gave me another layer of working with people who also needed the same thing. So if
Mhm.
people were suffering from autoimmune diseases, acne, um, um, knee pain, hip pain, back pain, like those kinds of things, that's also something that can really come through during a channeling session with me as well, just
Yeah.
because I've done so much work on the physical body myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so that's kind of what I did.
It's almost like you just have to start somewheres, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Starting with one thing, even though you may like it, you may not like it. that's not really the point. You just start
No.
explorers and it'll just guide you from one place to another, right? And you just grow
Yeah.
from there. And so yeah, it's amazing. Most people are just afraid, right? Afraid of trying
Hmm.
anything because we always have that thing of failure and whatever, whatever goes guilt and in our minds and stuff like that. So the importance is basically, so from what I'm hearing, what you're trying to say is basically just start somewheres and just go from there type thing. And it's funny actually too, now that you're kind of reminding me of, my journey too at the same time. And it was interesting because as you start somewheres, wherever it is, for me, it's always about creativity, right? So it's
Hmm.
either art or anything of the sort. What was really quite amazing is that everything else transpired. So you were talking about food, and then all of a sudden, I wasn't like, I don't need coffee. I don't want to drink coffee anymore, or I don't want that chocolate. And it wasn't the fact of I was forcing myself not to eat it,
Yeah.
or okay, I got to stay away from it, or else, it was just, I sincerely, my body just didn't want it anymore.
Hmm.
So I'm guessing that's probably part, excuse me, of what you were talking about, the Kundalini, right? Too. At the same
Hmm.
time, it's like it's growing within you, and for everybody, it grows at a different speed,
Hmm.
obviously. There's no right or wrong by any means. We all have our own, addictions and
Hmm.
just lessons, right, in life and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you. You actually kind of reminded me of all of that. It all just kind of flooded in all of a sudden.
You're
Like,
welcome.
yeah. Actually, I was going to even ask you, I don't know if you have the time now, but at one point, if you can do like collective type of reading for us too.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that I have to ask you to get some cards. I should have asked you. Oh, there you go. Cool. Yeah, that would be really awesome to do that. Not only just for us two, obviously, but for everybody. And don't worry about it for everyone else too. I'm just gonna put all the information all at the end. Um, her website, email, and all that to for contact and whatnot. And if you have any other questions, of course you can ask and send it her way. But yeah, that would be really cool if we can have a little reading out of you.
Yeah, I would love to. So usually like the how I gain access to someone's channel is through breath. So it's through our prana, which means our life force or our breath.
Yeah.
So that's how I get permission or access to my clients. Every reader will do it differently. We all have our own way of accessing spirit or accessing source. Because this is a collective read, I'm just going to breathe by myself. I'm sure that this is probably going to be timeless as well, especially if it's being posted on YouTube or wherever, whatever platform you're utilizing. So just take it as it resonates, and hopefully this will be something that is for you. Okay, ready?
Ready.
Okay, so for this collective and where we're at right now, there might be a space where you're in contemplation. So you're thinking about doing something or thinking about taking action. This could be thinking about taking action, especially regarding leaving a certain workplace, relationship. I think that there's probably a lot of fear with this as well, because it's like, okay, do I leave this that has a really steady state, right? A really slow, whether it's a slow income, whether it's a slow burn with inside the relationship, but you might be in the space where it's like, is this moving too slow or do I want to leave? So
Okay.
there kind of could be a little bit of confusion that's happening, especially with like where you're headed or what your next steps are or where you want to be going. Again, this could be in job placement, this could be in relationship, this could be family dynamic. There's a step that you're going to take that feels really scary for you. How you're going to find a solution to go through this is to actually sit with your emotion.
Oh, cool.
So once you find where that emotion lives in your body, so I did a lot of nervous system regulation. And sometimes what was happening for me, especially when I was doing some somatic work, was I was finding that a lot of my emotion was trapped in my hip. And hip is associated or related to fear. So there were certain blocks or barriers that I had that I was so fearful of. But once I tapped into that emotion and did some somatic work to really release that, it gave me permission and space to start planting seeds.
Mm.
And these seeds allowed me to start growing in my business, in my relationship dynamic, with my family dynamic. Like it just kind of gave me space or permission to really tap into that, if that makes sense.
Mm.
The outcome of this, once you start doing this work, a lot of the clientele or the content too that we could be really focusing on is people who are quite stuck in their current reality or in their current life theme. And so we're just talking about like spaces of how you can move. So nervous system regulation is going to be huge for that. The other thing that's going to be really huge for that is somatics, just different types of medicine. You might find that you might want to do like a plant ceremony or some sort of medicine journey or something like that. But one of the things that's going to come up for you is there's going to be all of these different things that you're going to want to try. So once you kind of get into this space where it's like, okay, I have done some nervous system regulation, maybe what I really want to do is some breath work and just really focus on getting that trauma kind of out of my body.
Yeah.
Just to give me more space to heal. Once I do that, guess what happens? My karma comes in, my good karma.
Awesome.
And my wheel is starting to turn. So if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling like, okay, I'm not having any movement, maybe it's just something that's stored in your body that we can work on, move through, really focus on what area is really stuck, and then just give you some space to allow you to start planting some seeds for some new direction in your life.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, actually it's pretty relatable, I guess you can say. I'm not as stuck, I guess you can say, as I used to be. Well,
Mhm.
used to be like a couple of days ago. Just in the last, couple of days, finally, it's just, yeah, pretty much like facing the little bit of fear and stuff like that. And so I'm at that stage of planting the seeds and also still learning and releasing a lot of the stuff that is still in my nervous system because I'm still in a little bit in that fight or flight mode.
Mhm.
Well, a little bit, probably.
We all are.
Probably more than I'm admitting. Though it's good because I mean I am doing the work and stuff like that too all at the
Mhm.
same time. So it's pretty cool on that part. Nice to know that things are gonna start moving also pretty soon. So
Yeah, yeah. And collectively too, right? We're just going through a lot. We are heading into the dawn of Aquarius, which is all about stepping into the feminine.
yeah.
We're not in that space yet, but you are noticing within our society that things are really starting to shift and change within that dynamic.
How do you think it's gonna turn out once we do actually do that big shift?
I think there's just going to be a lot more balance
Yeah.
and a lot more harmony. That's kind of what I'm expecting.
Okay.
Whether that comes true or not, isn't I
We wouldn't
mean,
know. Yeah.
there has to be a balance within the masculine and feminine, right? And it's not gender specific, right? It's like if you don't identify as either or whatever the identification is, it doesn't really matter. It's more so just about really tapping into the masculine energy is all about action orientation. So what you're doing to drive forward. And the feminine energy is all about being in a state of nurture or flow.
Yeah.
So it's about having this balance of action orientation and being the provider, and then also being in the state of receiving and being in a space of flow.
Yeah.
So whatever that balance looks like, I'm sure there's going to be a pendulum swing from one area to the other, right? And that's just the way that I view things, right? I mean, if there's too much action orientation, you have a kind of a world that we're experiencing now. And if there's too much like state of flow, we're going to experience the opposite of the pendulum, right? So we're trying to get to the space of equilibrium. I do think it's going to take some time. I'm not sure if I will be around in this lifetime to see that as an outcome. But I do have a high hope or a high expectation that it will, the scales will eventually balance out. So.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm sensing too is the fact that we've been in one extreme for so long. I have a feeling we're going to go in that other extreme
I think so too.
or getting into
Yeah.
that, the center mode, the balance and
Yeah.
stuff. I hope it won't take as long. The only thing.
Yeah,
It
I
would
hope
be
so.
awesome if it could be in our lifetime.
Yes.
I'm hoping actually that would be in our lifetime too. That would be amazing actually. And seeing, so I have two kids and just seeing, you know, where they're going to be at and then their little ones.
Mhm.
And anyways, so it would be pretty cool to be around once that balance kind of comes around. So still in that little bit of chaotic mode.
Yeah.
I don't know for how long. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's just another couple of years. I don't know. Um, at least from what I'm hearing from everybody else, like
Mhm.
is it 2030 or something like that, or 2030?
Something like that. Yeah. I've even heard like a shift happening in 2025. Like it could be as early as that. I
Yes.
don't do predictions. Like that's not something that I do for myself just because
Yeah,
timelines are constantly like, if you come to see me for a read, timelines are constantly changing. So a read that we're going to have today, it's going to look completely different in 6 months from now because we're constantly in a space of evolution. Right. So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. And
timelines for me
also,
are a little bit more challenging, but
yeah, I think you're basically there to help people see their options, right?
yeah, exactly.
And what it is, you know, whatever option they choose, then obviously the timeline is going to change too.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that, you know, saying, okay, this is going to happen this and this and this time.
hmm
It could,
Yeah.
saying that it won't. It's just that it all depends on the person, right? That's the beauty of being a human is you have all these options.
Yeah.
You got a lot of options and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to just a little word of, I don't know, a little, how can I say, closing for everybody and before we shut everything down?
I think my biggest thing is like if you need help or if you need support, please reach out. Like we are here to support in something so much bigger than ourselves, you know? So like we're here to support. You are not alone. We all have our story that's all individualized and unique. And you're here to be heard and seen and valued and appreciated for who you are, exactly where you are.
Mm, that's awesome. And thank you again for being here with us. It was really a real blessing actually. So you're an amazing person and
Thank
I just
you.
I wanted everybody to see that. So
Thank
I'm happy.
you.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Thank you for having me
you're welcome.
on our first ever podcast.
Yeah, there you go. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so sweet. So like I said, for everyone, I'll post everything up for you guys so that you can contact Natalee if you want to do any type of readings. And if you have any other questions and whatnot, please don't hesitate to contact either of us. So thank you so much.
Thank
And
you so
we'll
much.
see each other really soon for sure.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye, sweetie.
Bye.